It is the morning sports desk for Monday, February 12th. My name is CJ Baumgartner, back by popular demand and the fact that my vacation time ended. Corey, how's it going?
Were people clamoring? Is that while you were on vacation? They were just like, CJ, you got to get back on the MSD. He's flailing without you.
Yeah, it was my wife, mainly because she's like, you need to get out of the house.
Welcome back. How was vacation?
It was good. It was really good. Got to go to Florida, which is slightly warmer than it was last week, but I'm glad that I could bring the cold temperatures back to Minnesota for this time of year. So you're welcome. Yeah, exactly. We're going to go over proper airport etiquette in a second, because last time I went on vacation, we talked about just vacation etiquette. Now we got to do airport etiquette, because I saw some people that failed at that. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, we have our local connection for the day, and that's an 1,000-point score in Park Rapids. Corey, you got a little bit more on that?
Well, yeah. Girls basketball player Gabby Shapersky scored her 1,000th career point in a game on Friday. And I got to see her play earlier in the year, a mid-state game, conference game in Staples. And that Park Rapids area team in general can, when they decide they're going to fill it up from the outside, they can really, really fill it up. And Gabby is kind of the ringleader in all of that. She can really pour it in when things open up for her. She had 21 points in the 73-70 win over East Grand Forks. She becomes the 10th Panther player in program history to get to that 1,000-point marker. So really high praise for Gabby Shapersky, and 1,000 career points. It's a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And, we've talked before about 3,000-point scores when we talked about Orline and Greenway, but, 1,000 points is still something that's still kind of the gold standard for a player in typical fashion. And to get to that point is super important. So congratulations to her.
It's very cool.
Very cool. So moving on to off of that, let's get into airport etiquette. So Corey, are you ready?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. How many times have you flown in your life? When is the last time you have flown in an airplane?
Oh, it's been not like a ton. I don't have like a ton of traveling abroad or things like that. Last Christmas, 2 Christmases ago, I guess would be the best way to put that. We did a big family, extended family trip to Florida.
Okay.
And it was just after Christmas, which is very strange to spend Christmas in Florida when it was hot and there was no snow, Christmas lights and palm trees and stuff like that. It was very strange. But so it's been a while since I've been on a plane.
Okay. So here's the thing about when we were at the airport. MSP is a great airport. I think we can all agree on that. And I think it's ranked nationally as one of the best airports
Always.
In the United States. Big enough to have every flight you need and have a lot of the amenities you need, but also not so trafficked enough that it's overcrowded and overrun and people are running around with their heads on fire.
Yep.
The Orlando airport is the MCO is one where it's too busy. So I'm not going to say the airport is poorly run, but that airport has way too many people going through it for things to just happen smoothly.
Constantly.
That'll be the best defense of it. But the thing about it is, it's not so much the airport, because the thing about airport etiquette, Corey, is that you need to expect something to go wrong at the flying bus station. Something is going to happen. There's federal regulations everywhere for good reason, and you are constantly, everybody's always on edge at the airport. I get it, and that's not wrong, but also, relax. You're on, you don't need to panic as much as people panic. So when we got to Orlando, we were waiting, my wife and my wife's parents and her brother, we were all just waiting casually for our luggage. And there were 2 different spots. There was A and B. We were told to go to A. And over in B was Air Canada in that spot. Well, in our spot, we saw luggage coming out and we're perfect. We just got here. Our luggage is going to get here. And we're going to walk out and get to our Uber and we're going to get to the hotel. No, turns out all the tags have the Canadian flag on them for some reason. And everybody behind us waiting for luggage is in Toronto Blue Jays or Maple Leafs gear. Turns out it was supposed to be B and not A, but it's like at 20 feet away. So we just walk across. We're waiting. The conveyor belt starts. A couple pieces of luggage get there, and all of a sudden, one of the pieces of luggage gets stuck in the doorway. And so the rest of the luggage can't get through. So they have to stop the conveyor belt. And when they do that, that means that everybody's freaking out because they can't get their luggage. And some people can see their suitcase. It's right there, but it's over this little wall, and they don't want to walk up to the conveyor belt and onto it and grab it. But everybody's waiting patiently for all of 5 seconds before a guy gets up on there and he's like yelling at the workers, like, I can help you. Do you need help? I can just grab it. I can do it. I get like freaking out. Says it multiple times. First of all, the guy helping was speaking Spanish, so there's no way he was understanding what the guy was saying entirely. And this just kept going. And there was like an older grandma in a different family that was getting antsy, and you just hear people buzzing like, this is unacceptable, and this is this, and that guy is like getting up onto the conveyor belt trying to like order traffic and say, and everybody's yelling. They're trying to yell through like the little plastic danglies that are hanging through. They're like, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Everybody, and meanwhile, me and my wife are just sitting there going, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Just do your job. Like, just let them do their job. It's fine. And in 15 minutes, the conveyor belt turns on and everybody gets their luggage and everybody goes home, but not for the panic and consternation of people. My point is, the moral of the story is all of this. If you are at the airport, expect something to go wrong. And if it goes wrong, you're going to be okay. Just relax. Because this is, you're just ruining everybody else's time. Like, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, there's a severe lack of patience at airports, it seems. I mean, you see it when you're getting ready to load the plane, right?
Right.
I mean, some of it is built in, right? Where they start telling you better show up 2 hours early, you better get there in plenty of time. And then finally, after 90 minutes of waiting, they're like, we're ready to board zone 1. And everybody and most people in an airport, especially when most people are going to a vacation sort of destination, like you
Right.
were, most of those people have not flown often. So even
or
though
they have little kids or
their
like,
ticket says zone 3 and it doesn't matter, they just freak out and they stand up, and now you're in everybody's way. And no, we can't let you on yet. There's a severe lack of patience that happens in all airports that is just, it's not going to get you to where you need to be any quicker. It's going to be, it's the standing up when the plane lands. Like, where are you going?
You're in the back row.
We're moving still. Like, just calm. I know you're ready to stand up, but get out of the, what are you doing? Knock it off. People suck in the airport.
Well, and yeah, like, give people a little bit of grace to do their job. Like, it's fine. If something goes wrong, whatever, it's going to be okay. But yeah, like you said, like, people land on the plane, and it's like the way you do it is you let the front row get off, the second row get off, the third row get off, and you let everybody file out. And if you're towards the middle or even the back, you just sit and you just let it happen. But like you said, some of these people, they get up and they're freaking out, they're grabbing their bags and they're going, and you're trying to cut in front of people, and it's like, to what, be 5 seconds faster? I get it if you have a plane to catch or if you have something, like, I get it. But a majority of people, that's not the case. Like, no. You are just being antsy for the sake. And the moral of the story is with that person who was like up on the conveyor belt, and like really panicking and trying to like move things along. We found him at our same hotel, and we all were waiting for over an hour for our room to be ready. So congratulations. It's all the hurry up and we got to get everything ready. And you get there and you're like, we landed at like 9 a.m. Your hotel is not even close to being ready. Like, just chill. Like, you got time. That's always the biggest thing with some of that is everything just time. There's a line from a TV show that I can't remember where it just says the guy, and you go, I don't know, things just kind of work out for me. And that's the thing that you just need to realize when you're traveling. Things will just kind of work themselves out. Like, you'll lose something didn't happen the way you wanted.
Right.
you're going to live. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox.
I will say, as someone who has traveled with kids, there is a difficulty that comes with that.
Yeah.
That is what you feel, though, is you feel everybody else's anxious energy.
Right.
And maybe it's real, maybe it isn't, maybe you put it on yourself, but there is this, like, you don't want to be the ones who are holding everybody else up because you have kids and because you know what there is that weird, like, you start to get antsy, like, come on, let's go, when you're trying to drag a 4-year-old along through the airport. And that's actually there. Hopefully that's when people are extra cool and are complimentary. Right. And that's what I remember from that last trip was we had, 2 small kids with us at the time, and everybody else was, when it came to us, like, there's a little patience here. Everything's fine. It's no rush. Meanwhile, you're like, come on, just put it away. Put your shoes back on. Come on, we gotta go.
Right. Well,
so there is some, like, it is there's some natural pressures in airports because things are so timed and whatever. But generally speaking, yeah, people just relax, please.
Right. Well, and so we went to Disney World, which is just a whole thing in of itself of just people everywhere. And like, the hustle and bustle of, like, the Brainerd or Alexandria Walmart, sometimes I'm like, geez, there's so many people. Just let me walk and get my stuff. And then I'm like, never mind. I'm not going to complain for a while. I'll go back to complaining in like a few months. But for now, I'll be a little more grateful. But it's like you said, it goes into like the just give everybody a little bit of grace while you're traveling because everybody's got somewhere to be. So, like, just you do your thing and let them do theirs, and it's going to be fine. And yeah, it's like people just get a little.
I have a question about airports and like airplane staff. I know nothing about this, so I'm legitimately asking. Is a work day for, like, a pilot or a flight attendant or whatever, is it a flight to and from someplace?
It's a good question.
Like is their 8-hour day for your pilot who flew you from Minneapolis to Orlando? What like, is that,
does he like fly you back to Minneapolis and that's his day?
That first flight, if that was his first flight of the day, does he stay in the airplane and fly the next flight to wherever that goes back to, and then his day is done? Or are they doing, like, are they pulling 15-hour days? Are the flight attendants, like, they're on the 8:40 plane from Minneapolis to Orlando? We're going to stay on this plane. We're going to get those people from Orlando to New York. We'll fill out our paperwork, stay overnight. We're done for the day. What is it? Is it an 8-hour day? How does that work?
I'm sure that there's a lot of federal guidelines when it comes to, like, when you get done flying a plane. Because, like, it's the rule with bus drivers. If you drive for 4 hours, you're mandated to take a 4-hour break. Like when we took, like, school trips with the charter bus, it was always like every 4 hours we stopped because the bus drivers would have to switch drivers. So, like, I wonder if it's something like that where, like, if you do a flight longer than this many hours, you are not allowed to fly a plane for so many hours. I'm not sure. Or, like, if you go to Orlando, is it like, okay, now you're going on our Orlando to Cancun flight or something like that? And I'm not sure how that all works. We got to get our aerial expert in here somewhere. We got
pilots email us what the answer is.
Exactly. Let's talk Super Bowl. We've pushed this off enough. So the Super Bowl happened last night. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs win their third in the Mahomes era. Officially now, there's a tweet that's been making the rounds after Mahomes won his first Super Bowl, talking about how he'd already got like 33% of Aikman's touchdown passes and like only playing 14% of Aikman's total games. And Aikman said, well, I have 3 times the amount of Super Bowls that he has, or something like that. And now everyone's like, the tweet going around is Patrick Mahomes, that was 100% of Troy Aikman's Super Bowls. So Mahomes is officially like everything about the Chiefs. They're the dynasty of the 2020s. That is now like the last 2 decades were the Patriots. The 90s was the Cowboys. The 80s was the 49ers. The 70s was the Steelers. Like, you can go back and back and back. the 2020s are now the decade of the Chiefs.
Yep. Yeah, they're amazing. Mahomes got his third MVP. He ties Montana with 3 MVPs. He's goated. Like he's an all-timer, as if he wasn't anyway.
He already has more playoff wins than Peyton Manning.
Yep. Yeah, if he gets run over by a bus in the Super Bowl parade, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most impressive things we have ever seen. And fortunately, in our lifetime, we have also seen the greatest of all time in Tom Brady. It's been kind of an incredible run of for all-time great quarterbacks, and what Mahomes has yet to do is pretty impressive, especially when you consider that this Chiefs team was pretty imperfect.
Right.
Especially offensively. Like everything they did offensively this year he probably deserves more credit for what they got done offensively, because they kind of stunk.
Well, and that's the biggest thing is Patrick Mahomes. This was the year his wide receivers stunk outside of Travis Kelce, and Travis Kelce did not have
all year.
Right. He did not have like a spectacular season up until he got rested for the playoffs. And then turns out he's Travis Kelce. And the sleeper though, is that this Chiefs defense was legit.
Really good.
They were really, really good. And it's gotten to the point now with the Chiefs where they're in the New England status of like, they're going to be a 1 or 2 seed almost every year. But even when they're not, that doesn't mean you count them out. Like somebody had a tweet yesterday that said, I will not pay attention to the Chiefs in the regular season anymore. Like their goal is just get 10 wins, get into the postseason, and we're going to do our thing. And that's where they're at. So they had an offensive line that wasn't as good. They had to travel to Germany this year. They did not get a first round bye in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes had to go on the road in Buffalo and in Baltimore and win those games. And I mean, the whole team did, but Patrick Mahomes had to play the first road playoff games of his career and won against the MVP and against Josh Allen. I mean, everything that guy, like you mentioned it, like he followed up the GOAT in Tom Brady. And now, and I mentioned this to you off air, the next level of Patrick Mahomes is not, is he the great, like it's not, is he a Hall of Famer? It's not, is this a dynasty? All those boxes have been checked. Now he's going to spend the rest of his career in the LeBron James, Michael Jordan arc. Because LeBron James, it wasn't there wasn't really a lot of like overlap between LeBron and MJ, but I
don't think there was any.
Right.
I don't think there was any overlap.
Exactly. And so there was a little bit of overlap between Brady and Mahomes. But the point is that like the rest of Mahomes' career, we're going to have the MJ LeBron debate with Brady and Mahomes. It's already started. Like there's already people yesterday who call Patrick Mahomes the GOAT. Like, and they're not right. They're not wrong. Like this is going to happen now. So, and Mahomes is 28 years old. So I'm glad that the next 12 years are going to be full of this great discourse.
Well, and Brady played until he was in his 40s. So we're talking about, like, barring something catastrophic happening to Patrick Mahomes, we're talking about a guy who's got another dozen years, a decade plus of games to be played. It's pretty special that we get to watch this stuff, but I think it's very cool. That's a good like overarching look at the Super Bowl, a look back. What did you think about all of the festivities kind of in general? Because I will tell you what I thought first. First of all, we didn't go to like a Super Bowl party, so the energy is down just because of that at our house.
Right.
God bless Reba McEntire. The anthem was okay. Right. Chris Stapleton did one of the all-time great anthems a year ago.
It's hard to follow it up.
So to be able to follow that up. Also, as an aside, have you noticed how the halftime show has been a particular genre of music for the last decade or so?
Yep.
Pop music and
pop R&B,
and R&B and hip hop. The anthems, they're giving the anthems and God Bless Americas and those sorts of things to very strong country music vibes. That is how they're splitting up the talent as far as that goes. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I think particularly like if you're a country music listener, and Reba or Chris Stapleton gets the anthem, you really are in it. You're like, yeah, they got the anthem. Like that's
Right.
like really cool. But yeah, actually, you know who sang God Bless America? It was Post Malone.
Well, Post Malone did it, but he did it acoustic guitar, and it was
right.
It was country as it goes, I think.
Right, exactly. It's interesting. Yeah, like I didn't think of it that way, but it makes total sense why they're doing it that way.
Yeah.
They haven't had a country music person in like 30 years do the halftime show.
And they probably never will.
Never will.
There's something a little
in terms of like broad appeal, like they're
and production too. Like I saw Zach Brown Band work. I will bring this back, I promise. But I saw Zach Brown Band at WeFest. Unbelievable show that they put on. Unbelievable show. But that is a stage with a camera, and it's like a sitcom. It all happens in front of you. When you have Lady Gaga or you have Bruno Mars or you have Usher, and they're dancing and they're going all over the world.
Right.
Like there's a production like it's a theater in the round. And a lot of country music doesn't do theater in the round. They are straight on productions. So I think that's a little part of it. Anyway, going back, the anthem was fine. The first half of football, I don't know. Like if you love defenses, cool. I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about football and defenses. Like I want to watch some action, and there was not a lot of action. The halftime show was okay until Lil Jon and Ludacris came out. Then I was like, all right, now we're into this. And thank God the second half of football and overtime was there, because it was a little slow there for a while.
Right. Well, and the Super Bowl it's the funniest thing, because the Super Bowl is such a big event for football fans, but the NFL caters it to the casual fan because they want as many eyeballs on the screen as they do. It's why they make a big deal into the halftime show. It's why Taylor Swift is as highly publicized as she is. It's why the commercials are such a big deal. Like all of this stuff is for the casual viewer. And in that first half is like that. It's not even like there's a difference between bad football and a defensive slugfest. That was a defensive slugfest. Those were two good defenses stymieing productive to elite offenses. And the second half was more action. And that's what brings back in the casual viewer. The casual going to overtime keeps the casual, like making it close at the end. That's all for the casual viewer. Like that, all that stuff.
And also good coaching, right? Like good coaching in the first half to get a defensive battle. Great adjustments in the second half to figure out how to. So from that aspect of it, really great. But it took a while to get to that excitement.
It took a little bit to get there, yeah. Overall, of course, I watched all the first half. I was at a Super Bowl party at a friend's in Fergus Falls. And so at halftime, after the halftime show, I was like, okay, I wanted to leave right at halftime. But by the time I got all my stuff together and left, the halftime show was over. And so I got back to my house at about the 2-minute warning in the game. And so I watched that in overtime. So I missed like the back and forth affair, but I was able to see the ending, which was great. Is there anything, I guess, do you think this is like a top Super Bowl all time for you? Like, would you put it in the Ben Roethlisberger throwing that pass in the corner of the end zone against Arizona, or like the interception by Malcolm Butler, or the come 28-3? Does this Super Bowl rank up high for you, or is it like just a good game?
Just a really nice football game. When it was all said and done, just a nice football game against the two teams that probably should have been there from the beginning. Two pretty imperfect teams from a pretty imperfect NFL season.
Right.
That was capped off with potentially the next greatest of all time. Like exactly. I don't have like any complaints about it, but I don't have any. I have one highlight, honestly, from this game.
Yep.
And that is at 2:58 on Sunday afternoon, my friend texted the group thread and said, "Who you all got tonight? And over under 9.5 mentions or shots of Taylor Swift." And at 3:15, here it is. There's the timestamp. You can screen grab it for you. At 3:15, I responded and said, "I think KC wins in overtime and over on Taylor Swift." I spent so much time thinking about that game and about each of these teams and who I thought was better and who I thought was worse, and I couldn't figure out who was better or worse. It finally made sense to me that they were about even. And if you're going to give Patrick Mahomes the opportunity, he's gonna take it. And I called it. One of the greatest calls of all time. Kansas City in overtime with the victory is an unbelievable. That's the highlight for me. Is I am either the greatest Super Bowl mind of our generation or of all time. I will accept either.
Well, and see, the ballsy thing for you is you went overtime, because only one other Super Bowl went to overtime in like all 58 of them.
Yeah,
like, there was only one up until that point. I saw somebody predict double overtime, and they were 3 seconds away. If they would have stopped it, if they were one play away, if the Chiefs did not get a touchdown on that play, they're kicking a field goal, and we're doing it all again in double overtime, which would have been just really cool. I wanted to see it from this had never happened before. But yeah, did you buy a lottery ticket afterwards, or did you use up all your?
No, it didn't even occur to me that that was something I should have bet on. I don't know how to properly express to you how wholeheartedly I believed in that. Like sometimes I get into a habit of watching a Twins game, and I just predict home runs for every Twins batter that comes to the plate, and eventually you're right.
Right.
This was now. I was like, I think these two teams are going to be evenly matched. It's going to be low scoring, and it's going to go to overtime. And I'm brilliant. Is my point.
Okay, so let's finish up our Super Bowl discussion with a couple things. What was your favorite and least favorite commercial?
Favorite commercial was probably early. The first bit of excitement happened back to back. San Francisco kind of ran that trick play, and McCaffrey scored. And then I think the first commercial after that touchdown was the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and J-Lo and whoever else was in it. That was probably my favorite one of the night. And my least favorite were probably the rest of them. I don't even have one that stands out in my head otherwise.
Right. Well, and Super Bowl ads have devolved. I think they've gotten worse over the years.
Oh, the Robert F. Kennedy one was pretty bad. I forgot about that one. I do remember that one. That one stood out to me. I'm like, that guy spent all his money on a Super Bowl ad. We're never going to hear from him again.
The thing about Super Bowl ads is that they've just devolved into, hey, a celebrity is doing a thing. And I think Mountain Dew was the biggest casualty of that, because they do it every year where it's like, here's two people that used to be in a show together. Now they're in an ad. They share 5 seconds of screen time, and they both didn't do any. Like, last year was Walter White, and it was Bryan Cranston and whoever plays Jesse in Breaking Bad. And the ad was a little clever, but still, I don't like that particular type of ad because it's lazy. Like, I missed when Mountain Dew just threw Puppy Monkey Baby at us. Like, they were just meant to be weird and creative and grab your eyes. Now, getting Aubrey Plaza and Nick Offerman from Parks and Rec to just be in a Mountain Dew commercial, not good. My favorite commercial of the night, weirdly enough, was the Minions ad for Despicable Me 4 that just made fun of AI art. That was my favorite one. That one where they just made fun of AI and how ridiculous it is. So that was probably my favorite one. Least favorite one, probably the Mountain Dew one, just because it's just very emblematic of what Super Bowl ads have just become, which is just paying celebrities to just be in the commercial.
There was an Uber Eats one that was along the same line.
I heard
Jennifer Aniston and there was one part because Usher was also in that one, and they were talking about how you got to forget something to remember to do the next thing. And Usher was like, I hope to one day do the Super Bowl halftime show. And it was the first ad out of the halftime show. So they picked their spot really well. That part was fairly clever. I appreciated, but it was right along those same lines of no, we'll just put people together who are we know them together, and we'll just ride that pony.
Exactly. There was a Doritos ad I heard where it was I missed it, but my wife was explaining it to me as I was driving home, where it was two old ladies fighting over a bag of Doritos with another guy. and at the very end, like, it ends up with the two old ladies, like, both T-boning the car from the side to prevent this man from getting Doritos, which, you know, he just like me, for real. So that's all I have to say on the Super Bowl ads. They're all meh.
Yep.
The Super Bowl halftime show, I always say it's fine in like a very passive, like, they're just not for me. I don't really care. It is what it is. If you love it or hate it, it doesn't matter.
I have liked almost all of them. And
I get the same level of enjoyment out of most of them.
Yeah, and I think I probably get more enjoyment out of most of them than you do. I think people love it's kind of fun now to hate on them. Especially, you know, we work at a country music radio station, so that the fan base of Usher and a country music radio station are not the same. So we run into a lot of people who are like, that is not for me at all. I happen to like all of them. And this was the first time actually as it was happening, I was like, oh my gosh, I have an opinion.
So yeah, I mean, we can all agree though that everything kind of just came to a head with Prince. Like, nobody's been able to top that halftime show, but that's kind of the gold standard. That's the gold standard.
Bruno Mars was really good, and Lady Gaga was really good, and I don't care what anybody says. Katy Perry and Left Shark was really fun. It was so weird. That was a fun halftime show. I have liked almost all. The stage for the Usher halftime show was insane. It made me giggle when they were all in roller skates, but the stage was unbelievable.
Right.
So I'm typically in
The Weeknd getting trapped in a house of mirrors a couple of years ago. That was also a thing. Yeah.
I don't know any of the Weeknd songs, but the whole thing, it was fun. Whatever. Yeah. I'm an idiot. I don't know anything.
All right. One last take, and then we'll call it a day for the sports desk. So here's my Super Bowl take with the Vikings and how this can. Here's my one. I try not to. Every year, everybody goes, what can we learn from this year's playoffs? And I always find it like lacking substance, because it's always like, be Patrick Mahomes, be Tom Brady. That's how you win in the playoffs. There you go. But this is the goes to show for Vikings fans that complain about their coaches. Every fan base complains about their coach. Every single fan base. There were Chiefs fans in mid-November that were sick of Andy Reid. So, like, that's not to say that coaches can't be criticized or you can't have opinions on coaches. It's to say, generally speaking, every fan base feels like their coach stinks. And the Vikings have a coach that he's not proven to have sustained success, but also he's proven to not suck. So let's, like, chill. Everybody had a lot of O'Connell takes, especially since Harbaugh's re-entered the NFL. My main thing is, like, let's all chill out. Remember, Chiefs fans got upset over Andy Reid. So I think everybody needs to, like, explore things from a 30,000 foot view.
If I learned anything, it's that our defense stinks and it needs to get better.
The Vikings have a lot of holes.
They have enough on offense to win a Super Bowl.
They have nothing on defense to win a Super Bowl.
Nothing on defense to win a Super Bowl.
Absolutely nothing. So that'll be fun to talk about as the draft gets closer, because now the free agency stuff really heats up. So if you thought we hadn't talked enough about Kirk Cousins, here we go.
This is speculation season begin.
Here we go. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Monday, February 12th.